Brooklyn, the sixth largest city in the United States, also the largest borough in New York City, with the biggest concentration of Caribbean immigrants. Brooklyn is host city of the Carnival celebrations Labor Day weekend, the largest carnival event outside Trinidad, when over 2 million people, mostly of Caribbean descent and living throughout the world, descend on Eastern Parkway each year for this event. New York is also the hotbed for many other notable news events affecting our communities. It was here, right here, that history was made on Saturday, December 8, 2001, when the Rosie Douglas Foundation, the RDF, hosted the first ever Dominican Diaspora Symposium at the New York Brooklyn Marriott Hotel, an endeavor that brought together the best and brightest minds of Dominicans from all over Europe, North America, and the Caribbean to help plot and plan the future economic development of Dominica. The Rosie Douglas Foundation was formed after the untimely passing of the late Prime Minister Roosevelt Douglas on Monday, October 1, 2000. He had served as Prime Minister a mere 8 months. It was his dream to tap the massive, extensive, and experienced Dominican resource pool that was scattered all over the world to help in the development of our homeland. It can be said that through his extensive international contacts, the late Prime Minister was also able to secure hundreds of scholarships for Dominicans when the government of the day could not afford to send students overseas to study. A clear example of a man with a vision for a nation building. As Mr. Gabriel Christian put it, the formation of the RDF by a group of conscious individuals in collaboration with the Douglas families recognized that national identity and dignity resided in respect for those who contributed much to the creation of our nation state, and that without national pride and love of and for all people, any developmental plan, environmental protection campaign, foreign aid, and talk of a knowledge-based economy would be meaningless. Thus, the RDF is a platform geared towards national development and named for someone who gave his last full measure for that purpose. The symposium was a collaboration of the Rosie Douglas Foundation, the Dominica Academy of Arts and Science, and other Dominican associations and businesses in the UK, USA, and Canada, in an attempt to define the role of the Dominican diaspora in the economic development of Dominica. The morning session started with welcoming remarks and introductions by New Jersey-based Ms. Athenia Henry. Ms. Henry urged Dominicans to remember this historical event as the diaspora rallied its resources for the noble task of nation building by gathering our intellectual capital and linking it to provide enterprise in banking, tourism, aviation, information technology, agricultural and agro-processing, and to continue our quest for economic independence, self-reliance, and self-respect. Ms. Henry also read the message from Governor George Pataki, Governor of New York, who congratulated Dominicans on our desire to carry out the works of the late Prime Minister after his untimely death. Following the invocations, which was led by Reverend Evan Dodds of Canada, were remarks and acknowledgments of dignitaries present. The symposium was then broken up into 2 panels. Panel 1, Economic Development. Panel 2, Restoring Civil Society. In Panel 1, Economic Development, presentations were made by Mr. Gabriel Christian, chairman of the RDF Symposium. Then Dr. Thompson Fountain spoke on economic development and banking. Mr. Steve Johnson made a presentation on tourism development and marketing. Dr. Edmund Tavernier addressed agricultural economics. Dr. Dennis Hemmenstein touched on Dominica's Information Technology Park. Entrepreneur Avanel James presented on information technology. Mr. James Abraham addressed planning and development. The first panel came to an end with a brief address by Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Vince Henderson.
I'd like to welcome you to the first ever Dominican Diaspora Symposium hosted by the Rosie Douglas Foundation and the Dominican Academy of Arts and Sciences. No country can prosper if its people are weak in faith and unable to rally their forces for the purpose of national development. We are gathered here today in an unprecedented manner to struggle for the unity of our people and to get together all the business concepts that our different law firms, agro-industry entities, airline companies, artists, sportsmen, all the ideas that they have. And so that at the end of the day we can begin to see different platforms in IT, in banking, in aviation, which can employ Dominicans and spur economic activity. If we succeed, we have a world to win. If we fail, we have only ourselves to blame. So I ask that Providence intervenes in our behalf and in fact guides us in today's deliberations, and so that we can pay the best tribute to the memory of our departed brother and leader, Rosie Douglas, who loved all Dominicans regardless of party. And as we move beyond partisan politics, beyond the politics of hate, vilification and self-destruction, let us then realize our fondest dreams. Thank you very much. God bless you, and may we succeed.
I must commend, first of all, the members of the RDF Foundation. I feel particularly blessed and happy to be here today and to be associated with the foundation since I was at the very first meeting, the planning meeting for this symposium today. It took place sometime last year in Washington, and I was at that first meeting, and in fact I told them that they should have it in New York, and I am glad that they followed up on that idea and have it in New York. We were planning to have it around sometime Independence time so that people could also attend the church service, but I realized because of what happened we couldn't have it, but I'm very happy to be here today. And most importantly, the fact that people from we have a vast wealth of expertise and talent out there, and to see all of them gathered in the room at the same time, that was an experience that I will never forget.
All Dominicans ought to be proud, and Caribbean nationals, to see this kind of initiative. I think when I agreed to come to this event, I never expected this. This far exceeds my expectation. But what is so energizing about it is the enthusiasm, and I think the outcome-driven process that is going on here. I do hope that in the end there will be outcomes that can become models of how to engage our nationals in the diaspora. I feel so excited and so proud to be here to witness this, that not only do I share in solidarity what Dominicans are doing, but I hope it would rub off on Grenadians and other nationals, other Caribbean nationals in New York, particularly, where so much of our what I call intellectual talent is in what you call residing. So it is my pleasure and it is an honor. I am glad to have been invited, and I do hope that the outcome of this will be shared. I wish our people in the Caribbean, I wish Dominicans can see what is going on here today, and they would feel reassured that Dominicans abroad have not forgotten Dominica. It is indeed a pleasure, and I do hope that this catches on, and particularly all the OECS, starting from Dominica, we go right on down to Grenada.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I love beauty, I love splendor, I too also sweet and fair. Honor surely, gazing wonder at thy gifts so rich and rare. Rivers, valleys, hills and mountains, all these gifts we do extol. Healthy lands so like all fountains, giving cheer that warms the soul.
We now will call then on the Dominican chapter of the RDF, Mr. Rosie Douglas, to make a few remarks, and Mr. Douglas, you will keep it brief so that we'll move quickly then into the first panel of the morning, economic development. Mr. Douglas.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to all the dignitaries ministers, Vincent and Mrs. Carrick, Dr. Selvin, and all the other distinguished people from all over Dominica, United States, Canada, and where else came from. I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm very happy that after a year of hard work, we have been able to put this symposium together. We in Dominica, from the Dominican chapter, we are like the glue that going to most of the other chapters are going to walk through. And we feel that it's very important that we in the Dominican chapter are very organized and are able to accept and make the linkages with the various other groups. So far in October, we launched the chapter at Rosie Hotel, and from then we are in the process of formalizing the chapter in Dominica. We have also moved to open chapters in Martinique, and last week I was in Martinique and we started negotiations there to open the chapter. And sometime in January we'll be moving to Guadeloupe to open a chapter in Guadeloupe. I must say that in Dominica this time we maybe have an over-politicization of Dominica. Everybody is into politics, and really nothing is happening on the ground. And we feel that the RDF, the Rosie Douglas Foundation, might be the mechanism that might change the over-importance of politics and really bring back the country back to the private sector and private initiative. Because in Dominica right now we have a certain amount of not enough private initiative and maybe an over-dependence on the government to do things. And we must, from here today, when we leave here today, I would like to say we'll have some action-oriented programs so that we can move Dominica away from too much over-reliance on politics and more onto the question of action and private sector. Very, very important for us because, I mean, if you go around Dominica now, all we hear every day is politics, more politics, and it's getting us nowhere, frankly. And I feel right now we are here today to really change that whole process around and launch a new direction in Dominican history. And I feel proud to be a part of it, and I hope that at the end of it all we have some tangible achievement that we can call upon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I cannot promise to be as inspirational as Reverend Dodd, but I'm happy to be here, I want you to know, and I'm happy to be in the company of so many distinguished Dominicans. But I do also want to emphasize the importance of this conference, the importance of this symposium. Before I do that, though, I'd like to recognize Ambassador Dennis Antoine of Grenada. She just very pleased, Ambassador, that you can be with us here this morning. I was saying that the symposium is important. I think you all know that, and that this is why you are all here. I think we all know that our country is going through some difficult times, I think. There's one way you might describe the situation. Dominica is facing a veritable challenge of development. In some senses, it constitutes a potential case study of the challenges of development in a small country with limited development options. I think you know that our economic sectors are by and large, all of them not performing. I think you know that agriculture is facing a very particular challenge as a consequence, in a large measure, of what happened to our banana industry. I think you know that attempts to diversify our economy have themselves been faltering. We have sought to diversify into manufacturing. The prospects for that are quite frankly not great, except in some small niche areas. And perhaps there is a cloud of pessimism that I've sometimes detected when talking to Dominicans or indeed talking to people about Dominica. I want to emphasize though that we look around at the persons in this room, and one thing that has to strike you is the vast array of talent and the vast array of human resource capacity that our little country has. And there's no question about that. I think we all have to take much credit in the fact that we have personnel who have been well educated, who have been skilled in various ways, and who collectively constitute an important resource that our country has. So that even as, objectively perhaps, we are inclined to be pessimistic about our economic sectors, about our prospects for growth, I think that there is a basis for optimism. And that's the message I like to convey here myself, that we have more than a basis for optimism. We have a significant human resource capacity. We have great human resource potentials. The business around have already been to put that on the table and to recognize it as an important resource. The way that the world is going these days, I think you know, with globalization. Liberty, we have an important day ahead of us. We have a number of important panel discussions to take place. I look forward myself to taking part actively in those discussions. And let me end on a note of underestimate the magnitude of the task of putting such a symposium together.
I want to say how pleased I am to have been here today. I believe that the symposium is an idea whose time has come, whose time had come perhaps. I want to compliment the organizers for the job they've done in pulling it all together. We had a number of very important issues being discussed, but I'll come to the issues in a moment. I want to say what a splendid occasion it was to meet many Dominicans that I had not seen in a long time. I want to say how impressed I was at what I saw here today, the spirit shown by all those present, the enthusiasm that Dominicans in the diaspora still have for their country, their willingness to support efforts such as those organized today by the Rosie Douglas Foundation. I think all that augurs very well indeed for our country's future. We all know, we all recognize that Dominica is going through some difficult times perhaps, but a lot of speakers this morning were keen to emphasize that perhaps the country's most important resource is its human resource capacity. And of those, there were plenty in the room here today. A number of matters were discussed, all hinging on the country's future development, all taking off on the essential challenge that our leaders, our people face in transforming our country into an area that can be self-sustaining, into an area that can produce benefits for the people at large. It's not an easy challenge, but it is one to which we have to respond with enthusiasm, with all our skill, and with all of our energy.
The idea is to not make long speeches. We've had a lot of that. What we're going to do with the panelists is hold them to 3, no more, maximum than 5 minutes. They will present, each of them, they will rest. The floor then will be open so we can have an interaction, so we will have a dialogue, not a monologue. Without any further ado, I then call on the gentleman who I believe was here a moment ago, who was going to start off for the NDC, Mr. Steve Johnson.
We're not going to go into the problems that exist in the economic sector within the overall economy. Tourism's contribution to the economy over the last few years has been significant. In 1999, you see $150 million was collected by government. And in the year 2000, you see $128 million. And I would like you to note that that number has decreased somewhat between 1999 and 2000, indicating that there are some problems. The hotel and restaurant sector alone is accounting for between 3 to 5% of gross domestics in Canada and Europe are our main international markets. But we do not ignore the Caribbean market because it's one of the significant markets for Dominica, accounting for the largest percentage of our arrivals into Dominica. But we're focusing today on the United States and Canada. And clearly that you can see that the United States and Canada are leading on the international front, leading over Europe. 6-7 years ago, that was not the case. And Dominica used to receive a larger number of tourists out of Europe than it did out of North America. But that has changed We believe that because of a number of reasons, we have great potential here in the United States and Canada, and we're looking to you to assist us in making that potential a reality. Some of the areas of strong opportunity for Dominique include, of course, you, the first and second generation Dominicans, their families, their friends, and their co-workers. The growth in adventure and ecotourism is also an area of very strong opportunity for Dominica. Other niche markets include diving, whale and dolphin watching, birding, hiking, cycling, and clearly, ladies and gentlemen, the list can go on and on. But these areas are the areas within which we think we have a strong competitive advantage. We've also identified the Ross University students and faculty, their friends, their family, and also the alumni as an area of strong opportunity for Dominica. We also need to be cognizant of the competition that we face. Our regional competitors include the following, but are not limited to: Costa Rica, Tobago, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and Grenada. Our extra-regional competition includes the following destinations such as Hawaii and islands of the South Pacific that share similar kinds of products with Dominica. These destinations work with larger advertising, public relations, and promotional budgets. They very often have easier air access to their destinations, and they have a gender propose. We ask that each Dominican living here in North America becomes an active promotion officer for the destination. We'd like each Dominican to register with either the consulate, the embassy, or the tourist office. That is important, ladies and gentlemen. If we do not know where our human resource is, how can we mobilize them? We also ask you to become an active member of one of these associations or clubs or organizations and participate in worthy causes. And please note that I say worthy causes, because there are many causes, there are many activities, but if all of them are not for the development of the good of our country, then we ask whether or not they're worthy. We also ask that each Dominican maintain a positive posture of self and country and refrain from negative and destructive comments and criticisms about our country. And very often we like to, talk about ourselves, etc., and we very often dwell on the negative. But we believe that if we can dwell on the positive, there's so much more that can come out of that. Also to educate and teach the present generation of the positive virtues and values of our people and its culture. We have proposed the following strategy. And of course, the strategy is targeted at the Dominican community, as I said, here within North America. We've asked or proposed to the Dominican Hotel and Tourism Association that they begin the preparation of 4, 5, and 6-night hotel packages to include accommodation, breakfast daily, taxis, gratuities, welcome drinks, etc. Also, that incentives be offered to the potential visitor by way of additional nights free of charge, half-day tours, discount coupons for shopping and dining out, etc., so that it can give the potential visitor to Dominica an incentive to purchase. We also propose that these packages be offered and that incentive packages by way of cash for they themselves to go out and sell the destination. We come to our proposed incentive packages.
That's fine, what I'm going to say is, we'll quickly
for the first 5 Dominicans who send a minimum of 20 persons for 6 or 7 nights, we're proposing that they be paid US $1,500. For the first 20 Dominicans who send a minimum of 10 persons for 4 or 5 nights, $500. And for the first 50 Dominicans who send a minimum of 10 for 3 or 4 days, $250 each. The impact. On tourist arrivals, at 100% success, we would have added 800 additional tourists to our overall tourism arrival figures. At 75%, 600 additional, and at 50%, 400 additional. You may think these numbers are low, but they have serious implications on positive impacts on the tourism industry. The impact on room nights, at 100% success, we would have created 2,900 additional room nights. And if we take an average daily expenditure of US $150, that would translate into US $455,000 US dollars. At 75%, 326,250, and at 50%, 217,500. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your time. We know that there is much discussion that can come out of this. We certainly do not believe that this proposal is complete. We welcome your input into it, but we believe that if each Dominican takes an active role in the promotion of their country, we can definitely contribute positively to the overall tourism industry within Dominica. Thank you very much. Well, my role here at the symposium was one of facilitating part of the panel discussion to deal with tourism development and marketing for North America. So that was my primary role here at the symposium today. The purpose of our presentation this morning was basically to highlight to the Dominicans within the diaspora what their role was in the continued promotion of Dominica as a destination on the North American market. So primarily what we highlighted was ways in which they can help us as the tourist office in the further promotion of Dominica by offering to persons that they come into contact with on a daily basis, not only their friends and families, but persons they come into contact with on a daily basis, Dominica as a tourism destination within the Caribbean. So they would in turn be selling on behalf of the tourist office, on behalf of the Hotel and Tourism Association in Dominica, packages to potential visitors. We're offering also, we proposed a series of incentives not only to potential consumers but also to those Dominicans that would be selling packages. So that was the main purpose of our presentation this morning, and we are very hopeful that it will go a long way in the promotion of the destination.
I'll rush through this presentation because clearly this is going to be longer than 5 minutes if I go. Let's forget. But we do have to at least know what we're talking about.